Okay, welcome back. So in the last video, we built the walls to support our case, right? And what we're going to want to do now is import our Raspberry Pi and build another wall over here and some spokes to support that Pi. So to do that, we're going to want to make sure we have certain components activated while we're working on them. So as you can see, there's this dot here. This means that that component is activated. So if I click this, the base component is activated, and if I click this, the parent component or the whole component is activated. Right? So we're going to click this so that we can right click here, the step file, and click insert into current design. Right? So when we insert into current design, it's going to show up here, and it's going to be a part of the parent component. It's going to see how when I activate that, it activates both, and when I activate base, it only activates that. Or when I click on step file Raspberry Pi, it only activates that file. Now, we have this imported file. We're going to want to maneuver it so that we can see where we want to actually put it, right, on this base here. Now, I want to put it in the bottom right. So the way to do that, I'm going to right click here and hit move and copy. This is going to allow us to translate and rotate this Raspberry Pi around. Now, I'm going to want to do 90, or well, 270 is like about the same, but I'm going to want to do 90 degrees here. And there you go. You can see I was able to rotate it. Now what I'm going to want to do is translate it again so that we get it in the spot we want it to. So I'm going to use the pan key, hit escape, and keep dragging these arrows so I get in the place I want it to. Now I have the top orientation kind of correct where I want it to, and I'm going to move it here so that we have these ports barely sticking out. I'm going to click this orientation again, and as we can see, the height of it is not good because this is basically stuck in the base component. That's not good. We're going to want to have it so that there's some room for our spokes to go and for these little soldered on electronics to have some room down there, okay? And we're going to want to make sure it's a little bit away from the wall because that will create some issues with the 3D if it's not 3D printed correctly, right? So we're going to hit OK. I think this is fair. It's in a good spot. Now, I'm going to create the wall that's going to go here, right? Go all the way across here. So let's do that, okay? I'm going to select the base component. I'm going to select this face here and get started. Hit capture position when you see that because it wants to capture the position of the Raspberry Pi. And now I'm going to create another wall. We know that it was 10 millimeters wide on the last one, so let's continue that. 10 millimeters. And I think I'm going to make this looks around 90, yeah, at 97. I did this before, so that's what I'm going to do it at. Adjust it to your liking. I think that's a fair amount. Now, here's what we're going to do. We're going to click this and hit Q, right? And that's our extrusion button. But this is something I want to go into real quick, this operation thing on this extrude tool over here. This is important, okay? Because you can select it to cut, intersect, create a new body or a new component out of it. I don't want to do any of those things. I just want it to join. But that's very important for later on, right? When we want to do specific tasks in this software. So I'm going to hit OK. All right, very well. Looks good. Let's make sure that everything's all right. And now I want to center the Raspberry Pi a little bit, so let's move it again. Get those arrows so that it looks right and about the middle there. Good. Okay. What we need to do now is we need to build holes for this Raspberry Pi to be mounted to, or not holes, spokes from the base so that this can be mounted to it. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on the base, make sure that our base is still activated, okay? And we're going to hit one of these circular rings, okay? Now, if you look in the mechanic files of a Raspberry Pi, you'll see that it's 2.75 millimeters roughly for the diameter of this. And since the 3D printer is not going to be perfect about it, I'm going to make 2 millimeter spokes. So let's do that. Let's capture the position, and I'm going to make sure that I'm looking at the circle here. Okay, perfect. Now, I'm going to need to make sure that I have this selected so that I can get a direct circle here. Let's make sure that we have both selected. I'm going to hit Control Z to undo. All right, and I'm going to make sure that I have this selected as I do it. Okay, perfect. And now you need to make sure you click on the Raspberry Pi before you hit the sketch button. Now, you can sketch, or you can do what's faster is hit the C button because we're going to make circular spokes, right? Now, make sure that your base is still activated while you do this because you do not want this gluing to the Raspberry Pi component that you're not using. And you're going to see a blue circle here. That's a guideline that's the center of this 2.7 millimeter diameter, 2.75 millimeter diameter circle. And you're going to click the circle. You're going to use the C hotkey and to make that 2 millimeters. Perfect. And we're going to scroll out, navigating through this, make sure that we're creating circles that are all the same. And I'm going to skip through this real fast. All right, now that you're done with that, you're going to hit Q to extrude. We're going to want to extrude those circles downward so that they hit the actual base. Now, we're going to get rid of the visibility on the Raspberry Pi because we're only concerned with this for now. And now we're going to do something that we haven't done before, which is change the direction of our extrusion to 2 sides rather than just one, right? And as you can see, we're going to be able to pull upwards here. Now, I know that this is 5 millimeters. I want these to be 6 millimeters tall. So let's make that 1 millimeter up and 5 millimeters down. Perfect. And that'll affect all of those individual spokes. Now, when I activate the Pi again and I've created visibility, now we can see all the spokes in place where we want them to be. Final thing before we're done, we're going to create some fillet points so that these spokes have a little bit more surface area so they don't break as easily if we try maneuvering the Pi on there when we're actually working with it. So what I'm going to do is hit the F key at the circle at the bottom of the cylinder here, right? So let's do that again. Click the circle here and hit F, right? And that's going to create activate the fillet tool that allows us to do this kind of make these corners a little bit more round, right? Now I know that I want the fillets to be 1 millimeter on each one of these, so let's do that on each one. Okay, now that you're done creating the fillets, we can go on to the next video where we actually start making the cover for this project.